was the boogeyman.
As a matter of fact, it was.
What's going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about Neve Campbell and her potential return to the Scream franchise in Scream 7, and how now some fans are now calling for her not to return, given the most recent events of Melissa Barrera being fired from the project. If you haven't done so already, please shoot this video a like. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton, as well as if you happen to be a new viewer coming across this channel, please shoot that subscribe button as well as that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel. Okay, everyone, so ever since Melissa Barrera was unjustifiably fired from Scream 7 by Spyglass Media at the top of the week, which proceeded with the announcement that due to scheduling conflicts, Jenna Ortega would not be returning as well, many fans assumed the shift would be to now make Scream 7 a Sidney Prescott-focused film. With the character finally getting the happy ending many believes the character deserves. However, in the wake of Melissa Barrera's firing, some fans on social media are now divided on whether or not Neve Campbell should return as the iconic final girl of the franchise, with some even threatening to boycott the film, as well as chastising the actress if she does indeed return. There have also been rumors that her and fellow co-star Courtney Cox have received death threats if they do indeed return to Scream 7, which in my opinion is just downright wrong and unnecessary. So what I'm going to do in this video is highlight some of these posts that I've seen over on X and offer my opinion on the matter. This is not me throwing shade on anyone, as I respect anyone's opinion and point of view on the subject matter. I just want to have an open conversation and share my thoughts. Okay, so the first post that I want to touch on comes from Robert Anthony over on X, at Rob Anthony Eden, which garnered a response from Sam Carpenter TGS, stands with Melissa Barrera, at OOXLR800. And Rob goes on to state in his post, if Neve does end up coming back in a leading role for Scream 7, all I have to say is that the fans better not, in big caps, go after her for it. I understand we're all beyond pissed off about Melissa's treatment, but do not take your anger/hatred out on Neve. To which Sam Carpenter TGS, stands with Melissa Barrera, responded with their point of view on the situation by stating, if Neve takes this role, she would be disregarding the fact that its lead and previously her co-star was fired and is being blacklisted. 2, she would be accepting the fact that she is an emergency second choice that is only being asked to return because Melissa was fired. Okay, so again, I respect anyone's opinions and point of view on the subject matter. You will feel how you feel about it, and rightfully so. However, I must say on my end, I 100% agree with Robert Anthony in his post. It's okay to be upset with what happened with Melissa, but it is not okay to blame Neve or anyone else who is not responsible for the decision to fire Melissa. They have nothing to do with that. That is out of their hands. Now, my take on Sam Carpenter TGS's response to Rob's post is that I flat out disagree, and for a couple reasons. The first reason being is that Melissa being fired is not only not Neve's fault, but it also is not Neve's problem either. I am sure Neve stands behind Melissa in her decision to speak out and stand her ground on her beliefs. However, that doesn't mean Neve should not take this opportunity to put food on her family's table based on something that has nothing to do with her. I bring that up because though Melissa supported Neve in her decision to exit Scream 6 because the studio gave her a lowball offer on the contract, Melissa still went on to make Scream 6 without Neve, and rightfully so, as Neve's situation with the studio had nothing to do with Melissa. And number 2, Neve was supposed to be in Scream 6 and was wanted, according to rumors, to be in Scream 7 as well before Melissa was even fired. So this notion that Neve is just an emergency choice and is only wanted back because Melissa was fired is flat out inaccurate in my opinion. Neve was already wanted to be re-entered into the story as Sidney Prescott with Melissa as Samantha Carpenter in Scream 7 before this even happened with Melissa. The second post I want to touch on comes from Andrew Case over on X, at the Andrew Case, and he goes on to state in his post, listen, I know many people are beyond devastated over what Spyglass did to Melissa Barrera. It's completely understandable. However, sending death threats to Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox is incredibly inappropriate. neither have any control over any of the decisions Spyglass is making, and blaming them is a waste of time. If another studio doesn't acquire the rights and Spyglass moves forward with their plan for Scream 7, I will be supporting. I know that many of you said that you won't, and that you're right. Fans came out in droves to support Scream 6, and it's the only sequel where Sidney Prescott does not appear. Even Courtney didn't get enough screen time in the film, and this is the first one where she also serves as an executive producer. Yes, I know the situations are very different. Nev didn't participate due to a pay issue, and Melissa is being silenced to her political opinions. Not everyone is jumping on the apparent trend to support the Palestinians no matter what. And I agree with what Andrew is saying here. First and foremost, I'm not saying anyone here in this community is doing so, but nobody should be out there in the fandom sending death threats to Nev Campbell or Courtney Cox. It is incredibly inappropriate. And the point of the matter is again, neither one of them have anything to do with what happened to Melissa Barrera. This is completely out of their hands. So for any of us in the fandom to be out there sending death threats to these two or to anybody, it's just ridiculous in my opinion. Like, guys, I get it. We're all very passionate about the Scream franchise or any other horror movie franchise that we may talk about here on the channel or support here out in the world. But that doesn't mean just because we might not get our way with certain things that you should go out and threaten anybody and send death threats and threaten somebody's livelihood just because you're upset over something that a studio did that they have nothing over, they have no control over. You know, that's not any of their fault. Like, it makes no sense for anybody to be receiving death threats based on what happened to Melissa Barrera. And he makes a great point about fans coming out in droves to support Scream 6, even though they knew that Sidney Prescott, Nev Campbell, was not going to be in the film, and that Courtney Cox was going to have somewhat of a limited role in the film as well. So my point here, guys, is that if you're a true Scream fan, you're going to go out and support this movie no matter what. Yes, you may be upset with what happened to Melissa Barrera, and you may be upset with the fact that Jenna Ortega is not going to be in this film. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset by either one of those things. But what we shouldn't be doing is coming out here having toxic fandom and literally threaten human beings, because that's what Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox are. They're human beings at the end of the day, outside of being actresses and iconic actresses that we like to see in these Scream movies. And there should be no reason why we are threatening their livelihood. You got to keep in mind, they have families, they have kids, you know, so there's just no reason for us as a fandom to be acting this way. It is, in my opinion, it's unacceptable and it's childish. Now, again, you know, I'm not trying to sit here and give a moral lecture or sound like a father figure or any type of that, but I'm just speaking from a human being standpoint and just from a common sense standpoint. There should be no reason you're out here threatening these two just because Spyglass as a studio decided to make an executive decision, whether you agree with it or not, to fire Melissa Barrera. It's just not right. With all that being said, I'm a firm believer that time heals all wounds, and I am optimistic that once this all blows over, some of the fans that are upset over what happened to Melissa Barrera, who are threatening to boycott or not even watch Scream 7, will lighten up and come back around, especially once we get more news on the direction and storyline for the film that may sound intriguing enough to give Scream 7 a chance. But okay everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on these posts that I've touched on here in the video. If Nev Campbell accepts the offer to reprise her role as Sidney Prescott in the upcoming Scream 7 film, would you be upset with her for doing so because of what happened to Melissa Barrera? Or do you agree with me that it is not fair to criticize or even be upset with Nev for doing so, given she truly has no control over the situation at all? Once again, this is I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. Be sure to follow me on X, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you all for watching.